Hey guys, Ryan here. Today we're going to be painting this D&D party of adventurers for my imaginary friends. None of us have actual friends to play Dungeons and Dragons with, right? Right? Alright, so I don't have any real imaginary friends to paint this cool party of minis for, but I still wanted to put together a fairly balanced party. Alright, first up we have Kyra, the half-orc fighter, wielding an axe and shield. This model is from Twin Goddess Minis. Next up is Lyrian, an elven druid with a giant wooden mace that looks like it was made of a huge hunk of a log, also from Twin Goddess Minis. Then we have Astara, the half-elven sorcerer with a cool gem she's found, and a Magitech gauntlet that augments her spellcasting. Her minis also from Twin Goddess Minis. Lastly, we have Galarden, a dwarven cleric who prefers to smash enemies with his heavy mace more than healing. This mini is actually from Titan Forge Miniatures. I think these four would make a fairly balanced party in almost any tabletop role-playing game. Before we get started painting, we need to decide on some colors. These models have some awesome fantasy armor and weapons, and I think they need some equally awesome colors. Which for the first time ever, brings me to the sponsor of today's video. Army Painter was kind enough to send me this set of speed paint metallics in order to make this video. I already love the normal speed paint line, so I'm really excited to get to try these out as well. Inside we have 10 colors: polished silver, broadsword silver, enchanted steel, golden armor, Aztec gold, horde bronze, glittering loot, hoplite gold, talos bronze, and brazen copper. It also includes a hobby base coating brush, which is pretty nice. I love the fact that they send brushes with their sets. They also include the mixing balls preloaded into each bottle, which is really nice actually. And it looks like, oops. Of course, I'm going to drop it on the floor, just into my lap, luckily. But it looks like, this is my first time actually opening this, looks like everything survived shipping very well. Only a slight, here we go, a slight shifting of the paints here. But yeah, these might need to be shaken up a little bit. A couple of these, like this, what is this, glittering loot. I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, but I can kind of see like a two-tone here. There's like a dark, almost bronze color, and then a very yellow, goldish color up here. So this is going to need to be shaken up. But as you can hear, the mixing balls are already included. Perfect. Ooh, there's also some stickers included. Not sure what I'm going to use these for, but I have some stickers. All right, we're going to be using primarily speed paints for this, including the new speed paint metallics. So yeah, let's get started. Gonna grab my handy dandy palette here. It's a little dirty, but it'll work just fine. All right, I'm gonna kind of be making things up as I go along here, kind of picking colors as I please. And we're gonna start with Kyra here. And dare I say, we're gonna try the orc skin green paint for our half orc. So first thing first, always shake up your paints really well. But I am actually really excited to try this hobby base coating brush that they included. All right, so I'm gonna be starting with her skin. A scar on her eyebrow. No, it's just her eyelash. Okay. Well, for now, eyebrows and eyelashes are gonna be green as well. You know what? I think it's gonna be easier to just come back later and fix the eyes. So we're just gonna fill all of this in with green at the moment. In some cases, you can really just kind of glob on speed paints and contrast paints and stuff, but I am trying to be pretty careful with my brush control here. I don't want to get too much of it on the armor or like the chains and things like that. I want to try to get mostly where it's actually supposed to be. Now I have zenithal primed all of these minis to try to make sure I get a nice highlight and contrast underneath, basically like a nice base layer underneath the color that's going down. And again, just trying really hard to only get green where it's supposed to be green. There we go. And as you can see, the muscles here, like on her lower back, like right in here, like these really pop out with speed paints and adding that zenithal prime underneath. Like that really helps add a ton of detail to these miniatures really quickly. I thought about painting her hair black, but I just picked up this new paint the other day, a cultist cloak. It says it's a blackish blue gray, and I really like this shade, and I've been wanting to try it on something. I liked it when I picked it up, but I didn't know what I was going to use it for. So I think I'm going to use it for this. Oh, I like that quite a bit. I'm glad that it really didn't turn out black, but I really like that slight highlight color that it's got in there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That's a good color. She has some fur in a few places, and we're gonna use some pallid bone for that. Fur kind of peeks out in a few places under the armor. I'm assuming she's using it to kind of help pad the armor a little bit. I assume a lot of this armor is not exactly the most comfortable thing to be wearing on bare skin, but you know, it's all fantasy stuff, so go wild a little bit. Wear whatever you want. And I'm also going to use some hardened leather for some of the leather bits on her armor here. Seems to be wearing a leather belt with kind of a sash, or at least that's how I'm going to be painting it, because whatever this is seems to be at least partially separate from the cloth underneath. Also a little bit of leather up here on the shoulder pads. There's like a little band that goes across the top. There we go. That looks pretty good. I think we got one more major color before we start on the metals. All right. Feel like that blood red on our little cape thingy here really helped add a nice splash of color. I don't get too much of that. I don't want that to pool up right there too much, so I'm trying to spread that out a little bit. But oh man, I love that red. Such a good red. All right, I'm really excited to see what this enchanted steel looks like. So I think I'm gonna use this for a chunk of her armor. And then I really like how it looks with this brazen copper next to it. Like these two colors, that just looks really good to me. So I think I'm gonna use this for some accent colors, like maybe some details on her shield and maybe like the chains. She has some chains wrapped around her chest. So we'll try that. Gotta say, first impressions, this stuff has some amazing coverage. Like I've only painted on her leg so far, but that looks really good. I gotta say, I don't think the zenithal highlight is really doing a whole lot for the metallics. So I guess if you were painting something like only with metallics, you probably don't want to waste time zenithal highlighting it. But it's also not hurting the metallics. Like I don't think it looks worse at all because it's been zenithal highlighted. That looks really cool. I love this enchanted steel so far. Oh boy, I love this brazen copper. That is a cool color. I love that little bit of red that it has in it. Oh man, I love those colors. That enchanted steel. Oh, that is such a good color. And this brazen copper, man, I was not expecting those two to go so well together. Like, I mean, I liked the look of them next to each other, but like this is even better than I had hoped. Oh man, that is so good. And now that I've basically speed painted her, I can go back and clean up her eyes and her face a little bit and add any little tiny details that I'd like. All right, next up, we are going to be painting a Lyrian, our elven druid. Let's start with the skin tone. We're gonna use some Crusader skin, mostly because it's one of the only actual skin tone colors that I have. Next, I don't know why, but I'm picturing this elf being a blonde, so I'm going to use some Zealot Yellow. I want to try out this new paint I got, Satchel Brown. One of the Speed Paint 2.0 line that I picked up. I want to use this on some of the wood bits on this guy's armor and on his big mace thing that he's got. I think it'll look cool. Really like this. This is a very dark brown, which I think it will help it stand out from the hardened leather brown that I have, the other brown speed paint. I don't have a lot of speed paints yet, so I'm just kind of picking colors and going with what I have for a lot of this project. And sometimes when you're painting, you just gotta kind of make do with what you've got. Next, I'm gonna use some hardened leather to fill in a couple of the other leathery bits, and this will kind of help distinguish them from the wood that I painted with the Satchel Brown. I absolutely love this hardened leather color. This is such a good color. One of my favorites. Yeah, that looks good to me. Next, I'm going to use some pallid bone. I'm going to be using this on a couple of small details on the model, like his horn here. And he has a couple of straps like this guy here on his arm. I want these to look like there's some sort of cloth maybe. His other arm over here has what looks like wrappings kind of going all around it. So we are going to also pretend that these are cloth. Making progress. There's a couple of small mistakes here and there, but I think we're doing pretty good. All right, now we're going to use some Absolution green. It's a nice dark green, and I want to use this for some of the cloth on like his cape thing, his little I don't know, half cape thing around his belt. I don't know what those things are called, but I'm going to use that there too. Alright, and we're just gonna get this in here and kind of go to town with it. Now this is a green I love a lot too. Like I love the orc skin green that we used on the other mini, but I really like this green here. And we get his belt cape. I don't know what the heck these are called, but I love these things. I love the look of them. I love the shape. I don't know. This style, this design. Got his cape and most of the little bits. Now, what I was really excited for, I want to try this Aztec Gold. This is one of the new Speed Paint metallics that I was sent, and I really want to see how it looks. And he's got a bunch of leaf looking pieces, like almost like scales on his armor. At least they're shaped in the shape of leaves. And I would love to think that as a druid, they've used some sort of enchantment to like turn actual leaves into armor. So it's not metal, because a lot of times druids don't really like metal, but I'd love to think that they use some sort of, like this looks very green, and I really want to try this on him and see how that looks on those leaves. All right, let's see how this looks. The color turned out a little bit more yellow than I was expecting, but I mean, that makes sense. It's Aztec gold. It's supposed to be a gold color. Oh man, but that looks so cool. I love that color combo. My only complaint, and this isn't with the Aztec Gold, but my only real complaint is that I've picked a color for the horn that's kind of similar to the scales that I just did, so that kind of blends in a little bit, but that's okay. The horn shouldn't be like a huge focus of this mini, but man, I like that. Now, I was debating on what I was going to do for this little ring up here, and I do think I'm going to paint it a metallic color. I'll probably do like a gold, basically have that little piece and maybe his belt buckles be the only like actual metal pieces on like his whole suit, so that way he's, you know, very, very minor yellow, or I'm sorry, yellow, wow, metal at all. So yeah, let's do that real quick. I'm going to try out this Hoplite Gold, one of the new colors they sent me. Even when painted over top of another color, like this hardened leather here for this buckle, this still has pretty dang good coverage, which is kind of unusual for a speed paint, but that is, like, that's really good. Like, I can definitely tell that that is gold there instead of the brown. So I like that. I like that quite a bit. And I'm also glad that I didn't choose like a super bright or shiny gold, but I definitely didn't want the gold to stand out too much. I wanted it to be very like a muted gold, and I think I succeeded with the Hoplite Gold that I chose. It didn't look nearly as bright as like glittering loot or golden armor, so I'm glad I chose that one. Here we have it, Lyrian. I'm very pleased with this. I wanted him to be a druid that I didn't want him to stand out too much, and I think this like basically wooden armor that I've encased him in really helps. I'll have to do his base as well, but I'm very pleased with this. Like, I wanted him to kind of like, I don't know, druids, I feel like, you know, he's going to be out in the forest. He wants to kind of blend in, so he's got all these greens and browns and, you know, some yellows with his hair and a little bit of gold and stuff, but that way he doesn't have any bright flashy colors, and I think that's how a druid should be. Now his base is pretty much ready as well. I'll just have to let that dry. Up we have Astara, our half-elven sorcerer, or sorceress, I guess I should say. All right, and I imagine Astara likes some bright colors, so we're gonna try out this purple alchemy for the bulk of her dress. Realized partway through painting she's wearing this interesting like harness thing, and I'm gonna say that's probably gonna be made out of leather. I think I'm gonna do her hair in this Hive Dweller purple and see how that looks. It's a very dark purple, but I love it. Super dark. It might brighten up a little bit when it dries. We'll see. Gonna take a tiny bit of blood red for a little bit of detail. It looks like her Magitech gauntlet could have a little gem in here, some sort of power source. So we're gonna fill that up with some red. Make that stand out a little bit there. So we're gonna take some High Lord blue for the gem that she's holding. Be taking both of these colors, Broadsword Silver and Hoplite Gold, and I'm going to be painting these on her Magitech gauntlet and some of her little metallic bits on her outfit, because I think these two colors actually go quite well together. Like, I really like the look of these next to each other. So let's see how it looks on her. That Broadsword Silver is a cool color. I like that. So far, I've been really impressed with most of these colors. Like, these are some nice metallics, and they do such a great job of covering the model. Now that's a pretty cool looking Magitech gauntlet. All right, and it's a little hard to see here, but I did pick out some of the little buttons on her dress just to add a little bit of extra detail. She's got a few here on her lower back and kind of extending onto her butt there. But there we have it. Astara is pretty much ready for tabletop play. She's got to finish up her base down here. Use some Gravelord Gray to finish up the edge. And some little detail in there. Got a little bit of smudged on the edge of that hole there in the center behind her foot, but that's okay. I'm going to use more of the same Hoplite Gold to finish up the rest of the base here. Gets her base mostly ready. We'll probably add a wash to that once it dries. All right, and up next we have Galarden, our Dwarven Cleric. Start with some Crusader skin for his face. Again, mostly because this is the only actual skin color I have, other than I guess Orc skin, technically. Next, I really want his beard to stand out a lot, so we're going to use some Fire Giant Orange. Next, I'm going to use some of this High Lord Blue on his robes. I think it'll look pretty good. I like this High Lord Blue quite a bit. Hardened leather for a lot of the leather bits. I'm going to use some Zealot Yellow to paint like the trim around the edge of his robe thing that he's wearing. All right, some Pallid Bone for a couple of the other details. He's got these little maybe cloth banner things hanging down, and they kind of remind me of like purity seals from Warhammer 40k, and so I'm actually kind of planning on basically painting them up as if that's what they are. I also really wasn't sure what color to paint this jug that he's most likely keeping all of his ale in, so I'm also just going to paint this with the Pallid Bone. All right, next I'm going to use some polished silver for some of like the chainmail and a couple of other details of his armor. And I'm also going to be mixing some golden armor. Basically, like a lot of the trim of the armor is going to be this, and a lot of the base plating is going to be the polished silver. Now we're going to use some golden armor on some of the rest of his armor here. I really need to get one of those vortex mixers. I love the shade of this golden armor. That is a nice shade. Coverage on this gold is really nice too. Galarden here doesn't have a fancy 3D printed base like the others. His base is 3D printed, it's just not as fancy as everybody else's. So first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and just paint the whole thing black. All right, there we go. Looks pretty good. We can always come back and add a second coat later, and it looks like I've got a little spot here that I didn't quite get. There we go, looks a little bit better. So yeah, we'll leave this to dry for a little bit. All right, while that's drying, I'm actually gonna work on the eyes for a couple of these other minis. So basically, the way I like to do this is take a very small brush and very, very carefully paint the entire eye area black, like this. It's okay if it's not perfect, but basically you just kind of want to get the eye and maybe just a little bit of like the eyelid area. Now on some of the characters, instead of using black like I'm doing, this is just to kind of keep it simple, you could also, like for Kyra here, you could use a dark green instead, or for the more standard human skin tone color characters, you could use like a darker brown or something. Now if you already have a darker skin, black may be the best option for not quite eyeliner, but basically the edge of the eye. You don't want to just paint white right next to skin. I mean, in real life that's kind of how it is, but in miniatures it doesn't quite look right. So adding a barrier around the white of the pupil, not the pupil, whatever it's called, whatever that part of the eye is. I'm not an eye doctor. All right, now after the black, we're gonna go back and add some white. I like to use matte white. A lot of people like to use a slightly off-white color, which is fine too. I just personally prefer matte white. I'm gonna carefully come in here with the white and basically try to paint just inside the black area without completely covering it. You just want to add a little bit in here without going overboard. And we can also kind of fix, Kyra's got a tooth. Actually, she's got 2 teeth. Stick out right here. Fix those at the same time. Eyes are also something that take a lot of practice, and even when you've practiced a ton, you probably will make mistakes. I still make mistakes all the time. And then, since at the moment everyone kind of looks like they've got creepy eyes with their perfect white eyes with no pupils at all, we're going to use one of my favorite tools, which is the Gundam marker. This one is black. It's GM01 200. I don't know exactly what that means, but this thing is fantastic. I use these guys all the time for eyes because the tip on it is so tiny. So basically I get the eye like this, and then instead of trying to come back and paint on a little tiny itty bitty pupil, it is much easier to just go in here and ever so carefully make a dot. Like that. And basically what we're mostly trying to accomplish here is to not make him look cross-eyed or like he's looking in 2 directions. There we have it. He has eyeballs. They're not perfect, but these are some of the easiest ways to do eyes in my opinion, and I think it really adds to the look of the mini. All right, we still got some work to do here on Galarden's base. I'm going to keep this a little bit simple, but I'm going to be using some of Citadel's technical paints. Kind of looks like mud. All right, that'll help add some interest to the base. We're going to take some of these Army Painter Swamp Tufts here and add those to the base. That way his stands out a little bit more than just being brown and muddy, I guess. I'm going to take one of the medium ones and put it back here on the back side. I like to use a small pair of tweezers to grab them off of the little sheet and then place them on here. And you can kind of rearrange the tuft a little bit, push it around. I think I'm going to add one more up here to the front, so that way it doesn't look too bland and boring. And here we finally have the finished minis all together. I absolutely love how these minis have turned out, and I would be proud to use any of them in a tabletop game. Maybe I'll have to play some Rangers of Shadowdeep or Frostgrave for the channel. Thank you again to Army Painter for sending me these speed paint metallics. I'm blown away by how easy they were to use and how great these colors have looked. Let me know down in the comments which color was your favorite. This was quite a process, and this video has taken me much longer than I expected it to. In fact, it's now many months later than when I had first started. a lot has happened. First, my sister passed away, and I took a long break from the hobby. I just didn't have that creative energy anymore. But then a couple of months later, my son was born, and I kind of felt that creative spark returning a bit. I started a new YouTube channel, this very one you're watching right now. And the reason for that is my other channel is Shinigaming. It's a gaming channel. I knew 2 years ago when I first started making painting and tabletop gaming videos that I should have just made a brand new channel. I should have just started from scratch, but I didn't. And I didn't listen to all of the advice, and I just pushed ahead and tried to combine all of my hobbies and all of my interests into one channel. And that really didn't work. My viewers just didn't mesh well with those two different interests combining like that. So I made the hard decision to start over with a brand new channel. And this is also why I was able to make a sponsored video like this with such a small channel. And sorry, Adam, I hope you still enjoy the video though. To everyone else, if you've enjoyed this video, please consider leaving me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.